What's up guys, Friday afternoon and I'm loading up again. Today I'm going to run you through our tinnies that we took away on season 2 of Patriot Games. Now if you follow the series, you know tinnies are part of my lifestyle and my kids are maniacs when it comes to tinnies. You know, they're tinny rats, that's what we call them here on the Gold Coast. You know, these kids that go around the canals on the weekend and just get up to mischief and do whatever kids do. So we know a little bit about tinnies. I grew up exactly the same way here on the Gold Coast. When I was young, my tinny was like my car. And that's what I used, and it was all about what tinny you had and your reinforcing and all the rest of it. So we've developed a really strong relationship with Stacey. You know, one of my first tinnies when I was a kid came out of the Telwater factory, in fact, and my kids' first tinny came out of the Telwater factory. So it really made sense that we stuck with one of the local brands, supporting the local Gold Coast community, and went with the Stacey boat. Today I'm going to run you through what we chose for season 2 of Patriot Games, and there's a lot of choice out there and a lot of things to consider when you're going to buy a rooftop tinny or any style of boat that you're going to take away on a trip. First and foremost, rooftopper. Big advantages with a rooftop. Obviously, if you're towing a caravan or a camper trailer that can't take a tinny on top, well, there's only one place to put your boat, and that's on the top of your car. There's a couple of really good reasons we went with the Territory Striker, and I'll just briefly run you through those now. The Striker's a little bit bigger than your conventional sort of rooftop tinny. You'll see it's got really deep sides, and that works for the stability, but also for the kids and having the kids up there up north. Same as the big boat. We want to try and protect them as much as possible from crocodiles or whatever else we might encounter. But the other thing with the Striker is it's a very, very beamy boat for a tinny. You know, these things are up to sort of 100 mil wider than any sort of tinny that you'll get in this size. The Striker range, they've got a 349, a 369 and a 389 metre long boat. For us to fit on top of the toy hauler, because they are so beamy and to fit in between the rails of the toy hauler, we had to go with the 349. And I'll be honest with you, at first I thought that a 3.5 metre boat just wasn't going to cut it. It was going to be a little bit small, but I was completely wrong. With the freeboard you have in this boat and the stability because of that beam, it feels like a much bigger tinny than 3.5 metres. It feels like, you know, the 3.7 or a 3.8 metre tinny, which is generally what I've been taking along on these trips. Another really massive advantage of this boat over any other rooftop tinny, this thing's got a massive dead rise for a rooftopper. It's huge. I'm not sure exactly what the angle is on it, but the stability, the ride is very soft in this, even in choppy water, and it gets out of the hole real quick, even with a 15 horsepower motor on it, which is what this is rated to, but I'll run you through that 15 horsepower in a minute. Construction-wise, I'm pretty familiar with the Stacey factory now. We've spent a little bit of time up there when we built the race boat with the twins, and we've met a lot of the crew up there, and they're very passionate about the product that they build. It's a very similar sort of culture up there at Telwater than it is at Patriot Campers. But obviously, extrusions on the top of the boat, extrusion on the chines, you've got another extrusion on the keel. The whole boat is pressed out of 1.6 millimetre aluminium, so sides, floor and transom are very strong. The transom's reinforced in these boats as standard as well. There's a lot of accessories that are available for them, but I'll jump in the boat in a minute and I'll run you through. Like I said, you can see me standing here beside the boat. I mean, for a rooftopper, the sides on this thing are extremely deep, and that was the first thing that really drew my attention to it. You know, that freeboard is a massive advantage, and like I said before, the safety for the kids. Probably one of the points that needs to be touched on is the reason that rooftop tinnies are generally so shallow. You want to restrict that height on top of your car, and there's a big consideration obviously for drag. For me, when the boat's upside down and it's sitting on top of the car, you know, it creates a wedge shape, you're solid on the top. I can't really see that the draft is going to be a lot more noticeable, like fuel consumption, between this and something a little bit smaller. So that's why I went with something a little bit bigger. Coming around the back to the transom, one of the modifications that we made for our trip up into Arnhem Land was we went and we've done a trial sort of prototype on having a trailer built into the tinny. It didn't really work the way that I intended it to work. It's pretty fiddly to put the wheels on and off. but what it did was it allowed us to get the boats around behind the Polaris gear without having to carry another trailer with us. So this is Mark 1 on another video down the track later on this year. We're going to completely redesign that system, and we'll do another video on that and show you how it all worked. So we're down at the business end of the boat. We're going to talk about this cute little thing sitting on the back. Now this is probably, besides my chainsaw, this is the least horsepowered thing that I own. A little 15 horsepower 4-stroke. But I've got to honestly say, this thing is so impressive, it's not even funny. This is my first ever small 4-stroke outboard that I've ever owned. I've never had one before. Now, the reason that I went with a 4-stroke, last year, season 1 of Patriot Games, we were carrying around 2-stroke motors, and the amount of fuel that we had to carry with us to run those couple of tinnies, mixing oil in remote locations, was just an absolute nightmare. Now, a standard 15 horsepower 2-stroke comes with a 25 litre fuel tank. This little baby comes with a 10 litre fuel tank, so that gives you the sort of indication. It's about the half fuel consumption, which is what we found on the trip. Now, Evinrude, keeping with the big boat, with our 150, with our E-Tech, it made a lot of sense to go with an Evinrude. Obviously, we got one dealer to deal with, one person to get parts from, and all the rest of it. That was another big consideration for us. This thing here also comes with a 5-year warranty, so I think that's pretty cool. A couple of features of this: weighs about 50 kilos, so they are a little bit heavier than a 2-stroke. But for us, when we're cruising around with that sort of crew, we've always got plenty of hands on deck to be able to mount the motor on the back of the transom. You got your forward controls in a really good location. Really good feature of this one, which I don't think I've ever had before. This has got a steering dampener built into it. So say you're cruising along on a long trip, you can lock off that steering dampener and the boat will kind of, or if you're trolling, if you're trolling around, you can lock it off and head in one direction. And that's actually a feature that you use a lot, believe it or not. So that's something to consider there. Now the other thing that was really surprising was just how much torque this little motor makes. I don't know the exact facts, but I can tell you, even Chase and Matty, they're big boys. They're probably, between the pair of them, 250 odd kilos. And this 15 horsepower, which is what this boat is rated to, will get them out of the hole, no dramas. Now with the lighter crews, if I was cruising around with the kids, say for example, or a couple of the cameramen in the boat, we could go 4 up with a 15, and I was really surprised just how well this little motor got the boat out of the water. So check these out. They're a pretty cool little bit of gear. Let's jump inside the boat and I'll show you some of the modifications that we made. All right, so jumping inside my little roof topper, and I think I need to talk to the boys about the height that we made this trolley. We might need to cut it down though. As you can see inside the boat, it's quite ridiculous how big this thing is for a 3.5 metre tinny. And going back to what I said before, that is the reason that I chose it. That's the main reason. This is as big as you need. You don't need any bigger than this. 4 people in this boat is comfortable really for everything. Ferrying around, out fishing, exploring up the estuaries, going out croc sighting, spotlighting at night. It's really handy. The seat position in relation to that 15 horsepower is absolutely perfect, as you can see here. Even if I've got someone sitting beside me, I've got tons of room, doesn't get in the way of anybody. There's a massive area behind me here for storage, so we'll keep all of our wet storage bags, food or a little esky in the back there if we're out adventuring. One of the biggest things for me that you need to put into a rooftop tinny that just makes them that much more usable and that much more comfortable is really a false floor. So we've got a false floor here right in the middle of the 4 seats, and it's probably worth stating this boat out of the box is about 80 odd kilos. I think they're 81 or 82 kilos. The false floor and the locker we've put up the front will probably add about another 20 kilos, which, it's a fair bit of weight when you consider that, you're increasing, say, by 25%, but I think it's worth the kilos that you're going to be carrying with you because, like I said, you can move around here quite easily, fishing out the side of the boat. While I'm up here, you can see that the height of the sides on the boat as well, like I explained in the big boat. When you're out fishing, you can kind of get off the side, and even the kids are a little bit more protected inside of this boat. Say if the worst was to happen and one of those big things tried to lunge onto the side, which I hear they're doing up there at the moment, so be careful of that. Moving up the front, you've got another big seat up here, and in the front here we've put this locker in. The reason we've put this one in here, first and foremost, this is a casting platform. So generally speaking, you're cruising around with one or two of your mates, someone's up the front, they got a little bait caster, they're flicking around, someone driving, someone down the back, maybe having a troll out the back or having a fish out the side. So 3 people, extremely comfortable. That's really how you want to roll. But what we've done with the casting platform is obviously given us a little bit more storage space underneath, so we can keep an anchor inside here and any other bits and pieces. Future modifications for this boat, I'm kind of thinking before we take off on the next trip, and we have 2 of these identical boats. I love it that much, I'm not changing for another season. This is the perfect boat for us. We might put a small 12-volt system in here so we can run a little fridge, maybe a stereo, and some nav lights possibly. We generally have clip-on rod holders. We might fabricate some rod holders up for this as well, just to make it a little bit more usable, and I like everything being able to remain inside the boat. So that's it, guys. A little bit of a run through another one of our products, the Stacer 349 Territory Striker. That's it for me. The work week is over. It's Friday afternoon. I'm going to finish loading up and I'm out of here. See you guys.